takes place right after Vader got his suit and he was talking to the Emperor about failing to save Padme, as Vader attempted to unsuccessfully strangle him with the Force. Responded that in death, Padme had provided Vader a gift, pain. The Emperor continued by giving Vader a choice, to either accept and use that gift, or to die. At a moment, Vader replied that he would live. The Emperor then immediately launched a barrage of Force lightning at his apprentice, and demanded that Vader use the power of his lightsaber to defend himself. But Vader replied that his lightsaber had been taken by Kenobi at the conclusion of their duel. As Palpatine continued, the Emperor angrily shouted that the weapon Vader spoke of was not his, and that it belonged to a Jedi, and Vader was now a Sith. Ceasing his Force-based assault, the Emperor drew on his own lightsaber. He put the blade to Vader's throat and stated that he understood how traumatic the last few days had been, but he warned that Vader should ever use the Force against him again. He would finish what Kenobi could not. The Emperor then deactivated his weapon and stated that, as friends, he hoped the two of them would never find themselves in a similar situation. He instructed Vader to put aside his rage and lust for revenge against the Jedi for the time being, for the two of them had a great deal of work to accomplish in their new empire. Immediately after his surgery, the Emperor took Vader to a balcony overlooking the old Jedi Temple. There, he and Vader watched as Mas Amedda directed a ceremonial burning of the lightsabers of all the Jedi who had been killed in the temple. As they listened to Mas Amedda, the Emperor asked if his apprentice knew how or why Sith lightsabers were red. Vader replied that he did not, as the temple's information on the subject had been incomplete. Sidious laughed, and then mused that the Jedi had been uncomfortable with the information and had buried it as a result. He explained that kyber crystals felt pain, just like any living being, and they could be made to bleed, after a fashion by pouring rage, pain, and hate into them. He asked Vader if he understood, to which Vader replied that he did, stating that he would have given him any of the burning Jedi lightsabers to corrupt, even Yoda's, but he had not, as Vader realized that the crystal of a Sith lightsaber should be taken directly from a Jedi by that Sith. As the ceremony progressed, the clone troopers attending the vent threw a basket full of various lightsabers into the incinerator, including Yoda's. The lightsabers caught on fire, and a moment later, a powerful blast of energy was released into the air, as the kyber crystals were destroyed. Afterward, the Emperor brought Vader to Gathering in the Mid-Rim, and assigned him the task of hunting down a Jedi to take the kyber crystal. The Emperor took his apprentice to a site where he had arranged for a starship to be delivered for Vader's use, but the ship had been stolen by a group of pirates. Leaving Vader to reclaim the vessel, the Emperor departed, and Vader struck out for the planet's nearest settlement on foot. Once there, he eliminated the group of pirates who had stolen the ship, and traveled to the Jedi outpost, Brighthelm. The station was garrisoned by a group of clone troopers, who noted Vader's appearance and hailed him. Though he could have provided the security codes necessary to secure the clone troopers' assistance, Vader decided instead to simply kill them. During the fight, Vader summoned a green-bladed lightsaber from the wall to kill most of the clone troopers. After exterminating the garrison, Vader tasked the droid co-pilot of his ship to search through the station's archives for data on any Jedi who had taken the bearish vow prior to Order 66. Vader's hope was that any Jedi who had taken the vow, one of complete non-interference in all Jedi affairs, would have not only out of harm's way when Order 66 was issued, but would have ignored its occurrence in accordance with the vow. The search identified Jedi Master Kirikan Fila, a Jedi who had completely dedicated to combat in the exclusion of all else. When a grenade was thrown at him by two surviving clones, Ding and Kicker, he managed to contain the explosion, which the clones believed would make him unable to do anything else, as all his concentration was diverted on freezing the explosion. As they talked of how they would restrain and bring in what they believed was just another Jedi survivor before the Emperor in hopes of being rewarded, Vader proved their beliefs that he was too preoccupied with the explosive to be false by telekinetically throttling the clones and breaking their necks, before walking far enough away from the explosion to release it. Vader quickly located the Jedi on the river moon of Aldalim, and sensed as he disembarked his ship that Infila was waiting for him. The Jedi Master immediately confronted Vader, and was seized in a force choke by the Dark Lord. However, Infila released a force blast at Vader, which staggered him and disrupted his concentration. Infila declared his barrage to be complete, and began to ascend the mountain upon which he lived, calling out to Vader to follow if he could. One of the Jedi Master's training droids, Eric's, then opened a gate, which sent a river of water crashing down upon Vader. The Sith Lord was visibly battered by the rush of water, but managed to telekinetically part the river and walk to the shore. He was then set upon by a group of gigantic carnivorous birds, which damaged one of his cybernetic legs. Vader eventually crushed them all with the Force, and made his way to the peak of the mountain. There, he found Infila and Eric's waiting for him. Vader quickly unleashed a Force push that blasted Infila off his feet and dazed him long enough for Vader, who was unarmed, to destroy Eric's and take the droid's training saber. He threw the droid off the mountain and engaged Infila, who sensed that Vader not only wanted to kill him, but wanted to take his lightsaber as well. However, Vader's previously damaged leg broke apart at the knee in short time into the duel, rendering him unable to continue the fight. Infila then declared his intention to seek out Sidious and to kill him, and blasted Vader off the top of the mountain with the Force. Regaining consciousness, Vader used the Force to reassemble his cybernetic limbs with the dismembered pieces of Eric's, who coincidentally had landed near where Vader had fallen. He then tracked Infila to Ambalar City, where he re-engaged the astonished Jedi Master. Fighting atop the city dam, the two crossed blades until the duel was interrupted by a trio of security guards. Annoyed, Vader telekinetically flung the guards from the top of the dam, but Infila caught them and used the Force to lower them to safety. Infila then shouted at Vader not to involve anyone else in their duel, but Vader instead took advantage of Infila's concern for innocence by ripping apart a building-sized water storage tank situated in the city below. As Infila attempted without success to use his own powers to stop the destruction, Vader telekinetically removed the Jedi's lightsaber from his belt and claimed it for his own. He then grabbed Infila in a force choke and lifted him from the dam. Infila pleaded with Vader to spare the civilians below the dam, but Vader ignored him. As the enormous tank burst completely, flooding the city, Vader crushed Infila's throat with the Force and tossed his body into the wreckage below. After obtaining a Jedi lightsaber and the Kyber crystal within, Vader reboarded his ship, where the droid co-pilot seized control of the vessel and jumped to hyperspace. The droid then began to play a pre-recorded message from the Emperor to Vader. The message said, per the Emperor's instructions, the droid had plotted a course to the planet Mustafar, where Vader would find a dark side locus, which he could use to help him corrupt the Kyber crystal. As the message concluded, Vader touched down on Mustafar and quickly found the locus of the Emperor, an ancient Sith shrine within a shallow cavern. There, he disassembled Infila's lightsaber on a small flat rock formation and removed the Kyber crystal. However, when he attempted to corrupt it, the crystal resisted and used the Force to send Vader careening into one of the cavern walls. The crystal then caused Vader to experience a vision, wherein he rejected the dark side, went to Coruscant, and killed Palpatine. In the vision, Vader then found Obi-Wan and begged for his forgiveness, as he knelt in contrition in front of his former master. Obi-Wan called out to Vader by his former name, Anakin. Upon hearing this, Vader snapped out of his vision and firmly rejected the possibility shown to him by the crystal, declaring that life as a Sith was all that he could be after everything he had done. He then began to pour his hatred, pain, and rage into the crystal. As the planet around the cave was consumed in a violent storm, Vader succeeded in corrupting the crystal. Afterwards, Vader returned to Coruscant and stormed into the Emperor's office during the middle of a discussion between Tarkin, Masameda, and the Emperor regarding the construction of the Death Star. As Vader was completely unknown to anyone other than Palpatine at the time, the royal guards in the Emperor's office attempted to intercept him, only to be blasted back into the office's large window. Seeing Vader, the Emperor dismissed both Tarkin and Amida. the former of whom expressed concern for his safety. Reassuring Tarkin, the Emperor repeated his command, and the two Imperial officials departed, leaving Vader to display "Here I can feel his lightsaber," emitting a crimson blade to the Emperor in triumph, thereby affirming his status as a Sith apprentice. Shortly after returning to his master, Vader retired to a medical chamber so his damaged cybernetic components could be repaired. As Vader floated within the Bacta tank, the Emperor congratulated him for taking his first steps to the mastery of the dark side. Although Vader was angered when he learned a group of droids would be fixing his suit. Sensing as much, the Emperor allowed Vader to repair his armor on his own, and informed him that there was a new mission to undertake. From his Bacta tank, Vader guided the service tools with the Force to repair his armor to his liking. At least one of Eric's pieces would remain in Vader's armor for years to come, filling in part of his knee joint. As a residence, Vader was given a personal suite on Coruscant, where he was served by a cloaked assistant. As he repaired his helmet, having repaired and donned the rest of his suit by then, Vader was informed of an intruder in the Jedi Temple archives. He confronted the intruder, who wielded a red lightsaber. As the two fought each other, the intruder appeared to take the advantage, but after a time, Vader revealed that he had simply been testing the modifications that he had recently made to his armor, and promptly destroyed the intruder's lightsaber. As Vader went in for the kill, the Emperor arrived and told him that the intruder, titled the Grand Inquisitor, was part of the Inquisitorius. Vader was then taken to the Works, where Vader saw the rest of the Inquisitorius training themselves. Vader was told that most of the Inquisitorius were Jedi who converted to the dark side in the wake of the Order's destruction in order to save themselves. As they overlooked the dark side agents, Vader inquired if the Grand Inquisitor would have taken his place as a Sith apprentice should he have lost the duel, but soon declared that there had been no chance of the lesser agent winning. Vader and the Inquisitorius were given the mission to hunt down and finish off surviving Jedi of the Emperor's Purge. Given the mission to train the Inquisitorius and agreeing to do it the right way, Vader dueled the sixth brother in a training session and cut off his arm in order to teach him about loss. Vader then spoke with the Grand Inquisitor about improving the Inquisitorius training methods. They began to search for other Jedi that survived the Purge. Vader saw the Inquisitor's target list and noticed the Jedi Archive's chief librarian Jocasta Nu on it. He asked the Emperor what was so important about her. The Emperor explained that she had knowledge of the Sith, and that she and the Jedi Council had kept it secret. The Emperor told Vader to find her and to bring her to him. Vader assigned the Grand Inquisitor to search the archive for more information on her. At that time, Jocasta Nu had returned to Coruscant and sneaked into the former Jedi Temple to search for a list of young Force sensitives in her secret archives. As she roamed the ruins, her droid, B2, informed her that her ship was about to be discovered. She informed the droid that she would adjust her plans accordingly. As Coruscant security forces came into the hangar, B2 detonated Nu's ship and killed the 3 security officers. As Jocasta Nu made for a secret archive vault, she noticed the Grand Inquisitor reading through the Jedi knowledge. She continued, only focusing on the mission. Vader was contacted by an Imperial Security Bureau major who had discovered a Jedi insignia at the wreckage of Nu's ship, and he went to the Imperial Security Bureau headquarters to check it out. When Vader arrived, the major asked what rank he should address him by, and Vader said, "Lord." The major explained to Vader their suspicions that the explosion was premature, and the Jedi insignia was merely rabble-rousing graffiti, used as a calling card. Vader told him he was wrong, and as the major explained his experience and intelligence, Vader used the Force to reconstruct Nu's ship, showing the major that he was indeed wrong about the cause of the explosion. Vader then ordered him to search every level of Coruscant, steering clear of the Jedi Temple. Meanwhile, Jocasta Nu was about to vacate the temple when she noticed the Grand Inquisitor insulting the Jedi knowledge he was examining. His comments eventually drove her over the edge, and she confronted him with her lightsaber. Vader arrived at the temple entrance, and Clone Commander Fox already had sealed the place. When Fox asked him what they were expecting to happen, and Vader told him that they had missed a Jedi during Order 66. As Vader entered the temple, Nu was pinning down the Grand Inquisitor with her lightsaber and threatening him. The Grand Inquisitor asked how she did not remember who he was. stating the times she had denied him the Jedi knowledge he sought. Jocasta attacked him, kicking off a short duel where the Grand Inquisitor quickly outwitted her. The Grand Inquisitor would have killed Jocasta Nu, if not for Vader's arrival. As Vader stopped the Grand Inquisitor from slaying the Jedi, Nu used the Force to rain Jedi books on them, and she fled the scene. Vader made chase as he followed Nu's trail. She made it to the archive vault and used a terminal to purge the entire library of its knowledge. As Vader entered the vault, he was confronted by the droid guard, Kator. He identified Vader as Anakin Skywalker and told him he was not authorized to be there. Vader threw his lightsaber at the droid, but being a guard against possible Force-sensitive threats meant the droid was ready for that move, and it caught Vader's weapon. Vader then punched Kator's arm off, and the droid caught his wrist and squeezed it with his robotic hand. Vader drove his fist through Kator's face before the droid could damage him anymore. But as Kator dropped to the floor, Vader noticed a powerful shot being fired at him and used his lightsaber to deflect it. The shot, fired by Jocasta Nu using a lightsaber rifle, knocked Vader back as it ripped through a bookcase. Nu stood at the entrance of the vault, confronting Vader. As Vader got up again, he tried to convince Nu to drop her weapon. She ignored him and fired again. Vader dodged her shot, and she fired for a third time, further devastating the vault. As she continued firing, she tried to convince Vader that he was just a tool of the Emperor, saying that he could never get rid of the light side of the Force, as it always found its vessels. Jocasta Nu's rifle then failed to keep firing, and Vader deactivated his lightsaber, telling her she would not be harmed. Jocasta Nu's rifle then began beeping as she threw it towards Vader. He used the Force to push it away, and it exploded, throwing both of them to the floor and breaching the side of the temple. Nu fled through the fresh hole in the wall to find newly alerted clone troopers around the perimeter. They fired at her as she jumped down, deflecting their shots back at them. As the clones put more pressure on her, she force-pushed them over the ledge behind them. Vader then appeared through the wall, and the clones assumed he too was a Jedi and fired on him. At that moment, Commander Fox approached the scene on an Imperial patrol ship and realized they were firing on Vader. He then had his ship fly over to Vader and ordered his units to a ceasefire. Vader jumped onto the ship and Fox tried to explain the misunderstanding. He used the Force to break his neck. The clones on the ground continued firing on Jocasta Nu and managed to disarm her. She then found herself cornered by Vader and the clones, and she attempted to jump off, only for Vader to use the Force to catch her. He brought her to his ship, and there she told the clones that it was the Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker. Vader used the Force to throw the clones off the ship, and when Nu asked what would become of her, he killed her. Vader then crashed the ship and contacted Sidious, telling him that Jocasta Nu died in an attempt to escape. With Nu having revealed Sidious would create more dark-side agents, with the list and questioning what it was that Vader truly wanted before her death. Vader then crushed the list of Force-sensitive children that she had with her. Vader then followed his master to the Works District on Coruscant, where the two prepared for a sparring match in which Sidious intended to teach him a lesson. Sidious ignited one of his lightsabers and told Vader to fight him, to which Vader ignited his own saber before his master charged against him. As the blades of the two Sith clashed, Vader was quickly outpowered by Sidious, who knocked the saber out of his hand and later pushed him away with the Force. As Vader was on the ground, his saber was grabbed by Sidious, while he told him that he still fought like a Jedi. His master told him that the lightsaber was not his only weapon, and that the dark side of the Force was his true weapon, a weapon that touches everything. Vader was then hit by multiple pieces of wreckage that Sidious lifted with the Force, while he told him that his lightsaber was merely a symbol of the inferno that consumed all who came against the dark side. On his knees, Vader told his master that he understood his lesson. Believing that he lost all he cared for by his own hand, Darth Vader embraced his role as the Emperor's chief enforcer. Few knew who he was, and even fewer suspected that he had once been Anakin Skywalker. Some rumors started to circulate that Vader was a counterpart to the late separatist warlord General Grievous, whom Palpatine held in reserve, while others speculated that it was a technologically modified warrior trained in the now forbidden arts of the Force. His appearance at the Imperial court and the favor he carried from the Emperor earned him the distrust of Imperial officers. They resented him for appearing out of nowhere and having authority over them because of his link to his master. They also resented his heavy-handed treatment of them, such as when he used the Force in the presence of his master to choke Colonel Borowki. In secret, he and other Imperial officers plotted to assassinate Vader, whose position in the new Empire they did not understand. For Vader, the situation came to a head when he investigated a Jedi sighting on Cabaria. Accompanied by the Ninth Sister, he headed to the bar, where the identification had happened. Although the Ninth Sister had originally been planning to investigate alone, Vader had come, claiming she was not yet ready to face a Jedi in combat, but secretly because he wanted to fight another Jedi. The Ninth Sister commented on his true desire, using her empathetic abilities to read him clearly. As a result, Vader ordered her to remain outside while he investigated. Once inside, the Dark Lord was attacked by a family of bounty hunters consisting of Mbada Ramat and their 12-year-old daughter, Chanith Cha. Using ion grenades, they neutralized all the weapons in the bar, while Chanith tried to seize Vader's lightsaber with a tractor rifle. However, he used the Force to seize the lightsaber midair, and under the strain of the two opposing forces, the hilt shattered, leaving only the red kyber crystal. The Chas told the assembled customers that they had come for the Jedi, and that they were not planning on harming anyone. However, a disarmed Vader disagreed, and used the Force to turn the customers into projectiles aimed at the Chas. Taken by surprise, the bounty hunters turned on their shields to protect themselves. As they attacked him, Vader also used the customers and the bar's furniture as shields. Eventually, the hunters realized they could not defeat him and tried to flee. Reclaiming his crystal with the Force, Vader pursued them. Emerging from the bar, Vader initially suspected that the Inquisitors had been behind the attempt on his life and threatened the Ninth Sister with her own lightsaber. The Inquisitor's denial did not sway the Dark Lord, but neither did it prove her guilt. Determined to find who had placed a bounty on his head, he persuaded the Chas. They eluded him for a time until he crashed a massive vehicle into their path, causing their speeder to crash. Seizing Chanath in a force choke, he commanded they tell him who ordered his death. Understanding they and their daughter were at risk, they told him about an anonymous bounty hunter with an exorbitant price posted on the HunterNet. Ramit Shah, a talented slicer, offered to uncover their employer for him in exchange for their daughter's life. When they demanded that he release Chanath first, Vader refused. However, the Chas refused to work if their daughter was killed, further declaring that they would happily die as well to exist in death with her. Grudgingly impressed, the Dark Lord demanded proof that Ramat could deliver her side of the deal, which she proved by tracking the signal of the bounty hunter back to Coruscant. Vader released Chanath as agreed, at which point the bounty hunters made their daughter swear that she would seek no vengeance against the Dark Lord. A deal Vader chose to honor. To complete the deal, Ramat provided Vader with the information he had requested, and gave him the source of the bounty on him, the Imperial Executive Building on Coruscant, specifically the Emperor's office. Vader then killed both Cha parents right in front of their daughter, who was filled with rage. Despite her oath to not hold a grudge, she ignored her promise and spent her entire life hunting the Dark Lord in revenge. Eventually, as the years passed on, the Sith Lord himself simply forgot the murders he carried out on Cabaria. Cha, however, never forgot, and became a skilled bounty hunter, studying every report she could and speaking to anyone she could find who had witnessed Vader in battle. She trained herself to counter Vader's abilities, eventually enlisting a team of fellow hunters as the Orphans to help her in her quest. Cha's skills rose to a level that Palpatine even took notice of, becoming a bounty hunter the Emperor could trust, all in the name of possibly getting close to Vader, only to never see him. So, with their business on Cabaria completed, Vader and the Ninth Sister left the planet and returned to Coruscant. Now suspecting that the Emperor had placed the bounty on his head, the Dark Lord planned to confront his master about his intentions. As the Ninth Sister piloted the ship towards hyperspace, Vader worked on creating a new lightsaber. His droid, meanwhile, investigated the origins of the kill contract placed on him, and confirmed that the order could have come from the Emperor's office. with no evidence of slicing to indicate foul play. But as the ship arrived in orbit over Coruscant, the ship's attempt to transmit clearance codes for landing was jammed, and the ship itself was marked as being part of a separatist splinter cell. The Imperial's capital orbital defenses targeted Vader's ship. Only the Dark Lord's skill as a pilot prevented them from being destroyed, although the ship was damaged and forced to crash land on Coruscant. Tired of the repeated attempts on his life, the Dark Lord headed to the former Jedi Temple to confront the Emperor. The Emperor was investigating the hoard of artifacts that Joe Costanu had collected and stored in the Jedi archives when Vader arrived. The Emperor sensed that his apprentice did not wish to discuss his recent discovery, although he did praise him for having found the librarian's stash. Vader informed his master of the events on Cabaria and his investigation into the kill order against him, before directly asking if his master had placed it on his head as part of a test. Noticing Vader's new lightsaber, the Emperor asked to see it, approving of its design. He also chastised his apprentice for believing he would resort to such methods as placing a bounty on his head. If he wanted to have him killed, and that he did not test, he thought. He also told Vader that finding his assassins were his task, not theirs. This echoed a previous lesson he had taught Vader when he disciplined Colonel Barocchi, that they must not kill everyone in the galaxy, but that having power meant that they could, and that they would never lack for people to destroy. Vader returned to his quarters, where he meditated on the past events and his master's words. Thinking back to all that had happened, he eventually realized the cause of the conspiracy against him was that his sudden elevation had caused concern and fear among the ranks of the Imperial officers, who knew that he had strength, but not that he shared the Emperor's power. Despite a lack of proof, Vader became convinced that Colonel Barocchi, who had so suddenly borne his displeasure, must be involved in the conspiracy. The Dark Lord met with the Emperor and shared his conclusions, and requested that he be publicly recognized and allowed to show them the consequences of opposing him. The Emperor asked whether he was sure, and Vader confirmed it. He would not kill them all unless he had to, but would not allow them to act against him with impunity. The Emperor agreed to Vader's plan, but forbade him from killing Tarkin, as he was essential to his plans. The Emperor then gathered the elite officers of the growing Imperial military to clarify the new hierarchy. He formally introduced Vader as his emissary, who spoke with his voice, and whose commands would need to be obeyed as if they came from the Emperor himself. The Emperor then moved aside and allowed Vader to speak. The Dark Lord summoned 5 officers before him: Corran Farrow, Zorda Bingan, June Streffy, Tomas Azoras, and Barocchi, informing them that the 2 attempts on his life had been made from within the officer corps, and that he had his suspicions on who had been responsible. He instituted a new rule: for every assassination attempt he survived, and he warned them that he would always survive, 5 officers chosen at random would be executed. He instantly executed the 5 designated officers with a force choke before departing. He left the remaining officers stunned and afraid. With his position in the hierarchy established, Vader never held an official military rank, but acted as the de facto commander-in-chief of the Imperial military, being recognized as part of both Imperial High Command and the Imperial Ruling Council as well. Afterward, Vader returned to his personal suite and meditated, cracking the window in his anger that positive thoughts still came. In 18 BBY, 1 year into the reign of the Empire, Vader was reliving his duel on Mustafar through meditation. During his experience, he was already in his cybernetic suit, and he used the Force to throw lava at Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan jumped up to dodge it, but Vader force-choked him and threw him into the rocks. Vader watched Obi-Wan burn before he awoke in his meditation chamber, as the Emperor asked for him over the comm. In his throne room, the Emperor told Vader that a year after his ascension, it was time to show that his voice was the only voice within the Empire. Vader asked how, and the Emperor told him that Mon Cala would make a great example of the price of defiance. He further told Vader that King Lichar may have had an advisor helping him with his negotiations with the Empire. Vader asked if it could be a Jedi, and the Emperor said it was possible. He told Vader to take a team to investigate this, and claimed the military aspects of the operation would be left to Moff Tarkin. Vader arrived at Mon Cala aboard the Zeta-class shuttle Infernum. With him, he took 3 Inquisitors, the 6th brother, 9th sister, and 10th brother, and a death squad of purge troopers. At this time, the Imperial Ambassador Telvar had just finished another meeting with Lee Char, and the man was walking to his shuttle when he saw Vader descend from the ramp. The 9th sister struggled to get past the King's Chief of Security, Gael Akbar, and Vader confronted the Mon Calamari, asking if he had read the writ that the 9th sister had given him. Akbar confirmed that he had, but demanded that he knew their business as he had a job to do, and so did Vader. Vader complied and explained about a possible enemy of the Empire on Mon Cala. As he said that, Telvar's shuttle took off and flew for Tarkin's Star Destroyer, the Sovereign, which was in orbit above Mon Cala. However, as Akbar denied the possibility of an enemy of the Empire being on Mon Cala, Telvar's shuttle exploded. Telvar's assassination prompted Tarkin to enact a full-scale invasion of Mon Cala. His forces landed at Dak City, where Vader had arrived, and laid siege on the Mon Calamari and Quarren defenses. Vader and his team sprang to life, and soon seized the landing pad where the Infernum was parked. He then led them to the Dak City Palace to find Lee Char, and asked him about the possible Jedi. They fought their way through the palace guards and entered the palace, where the 9th sister began torturing Lee Char for the location of the Jedi. However, another threat loomed over them. A massive tidal wave had suddenly erupted as part of Lee Char's defense plan. The 6th brother warned them, and he and the 10th brother began shielding Vader and the 9th sister from the wave using the Force. When their attempts began failing, Vader joined them, but it was not enough. The group was washed away by the wave, and Dak City was left in ruins. Vader awoke at the bottom of the Great Ungnis Trench. As his oxygen supply was dwindling, he used the Force to create an air bubble for himself. Suddenly, he was attacked by a squid-like creature, and after wrestling with it, he killed it with the Force. Vader then rode its body using the Force, and eventually picked up a transmission from the Inquisitors. Vader asked them to come to his position, and they did so in an Imperial submarine. When they picked him up, he asked about the Jedi, and the Inquisitors said that he was still alive somewhere. Vader then asked about Lee Char, and the 9th sister said they did not know, but she then revealed that she had gotten the Jedi's location from him. Knowing exactly where their target was, they began traveling for the Jedi. Vader and his team arrived at the Jedi's location to find the individual and his disciples evacuating. The Jedi, an Itochi Padawan called Farron Bar, had been notified by Lee Char after he was recovered following the events at Dak City. The group of them immediately scattered, but one of the disciples instead attacked the submarine head-on with his blaster. The shots bounced off the window, and Vader used the Force to crush his helmet. The other fled in the direction of Bell City, and as Vader caught up with them, another disciple turned around to attack them. He too died in the process, but managed to slow Vader's submarine, and the rest of the group followed Bar to Bell City. Vader and the Inquisitors arrived at Bell City, and marched down the hallway, reinforced by the Inquisitors and the Purge troopers. Vader was then contacted by Tarkin, who was struggling to deal with the grueling conflict on Mon Cala. Vader told Tarkin that he was busy, but Tarkin knew that and asked him to do something else instead, to capture Lee Char. Vader told Tarkin that he did not answer to him, but Tarkin replied that capturing Lee Char was the only way to end the fighting quickly on Mon Cala, and he pledged to owe Vader a favor if he did so. Vader agreed, and told the Inquisitors to continue the hunt as he left. Vader arrived at Lee Char's Royal Command bunker and killed his guards. He then disarmed Lee Char and contacted Tarkin, who told him to take Lee Char to a window and send him his exact location. Vader asked Tarkin if he was going to send a shuttle, and the man said not yet. Once Vader did what he asked, Tarkin began a bombardment of Mon Cala. Lee Char watched in horror but refused to surrender. The two were interrupted by Bar, who had outsmarted and scattered Vader's team. Bar confronted Vader, and the two dueled. As they fought, Bar revealed that he had assassinated Telvar to send the Mon Calamari into war. Lichar overheard this and realized his mistake in the following bar. He ran to his terminal and sent a message to the Mon Calamari and Quarren forces, ordering them to cease fire. Lichar then contacted Tarkin, notifying him of the surrender. Tarkin sent a shuttle to pick him up, but continued the bombardment. Vader and Bar continued fighting, and Bar began laughing. Lichar questioned this, and Bar said that he had completed his plan. Bar prophesied that the Mon Calamari vessels would be at the forefront of a great rebellion decades from then, and decades after that. Vader told Bar that he was not a Jedi anymore, and Bar told him that made two of them, saying that he still beat the Sith. Vader then slew him, and the shuttle arrived to pick up Lichar. The king told Vader that Mon Cala would rise again, but Vader told him there was no Mon Cala, only the Empire. Sometime after the mission, Vader ordered to imprison and torture the people of Mon Cala. Shortly after the events on Mon Cala, Vader soon became aware of a project that was taking up many resources, so he began investigating, which led him to the data vault on Scarif. There, he found Project Stardust, a project that was a large battle station the size of a small moon. Vader studied its design before he was interrupted by Tarkin, who was very displeased with Vader's snooping. Tarkin told him that he was not authorized to be there, and Vader claimed that the Force was all the authorization that he needed. Vader denied that he was Tarkin's beast, but the man denied his claim and taunted Vader, saying he did not need the Force to know he was very angry. Tarkin then produced a hologram of the Emperor, who told Vader that he did not recall sending him to Scarif. Vader apologized, and told the Emperor he only sought to study the ways in which the Emperor would extend its rule over the galaxy. The Emperor told Vader of a new mission he was to go on. There had been certain instances of sabotage during the Death Star's construction that Vader needed to discover the source of before it got worse. The Emperor told Vader that Tarkin had full authority over him, and that if he disappointed him, he disappointed Palpatine. Vader arrived at Geonosis and met with Commander Orson Callan Krennic. As they greeted, an overhead rock formation exploded and rained down on them. Vader saved himself and Krennic, and they went to his office to discuss the matter. Krennic claimed it was Tarkin sabotaging his efforts, in order to get rid of him and take over the project. Vader asked him if there was any proof, and Krennic was not able to produce anything. Krennic then explained to him the instances that had occurred in the last 3 months. Vader gave him his knowledge on the situation to loyalty officer Sid Udra, who met him at the Pentraki arena to discuss what she suspected. She told Vader that, as much as Tarkin and Krennic's rivalry arose tension between them, it was unlikely for either of them to be the culprit. She then offered Vader with another individual to look into, the scientist Galen Walton Urso. Vader looked through his office and found many kyber crystals, in which he bled for himself without issue. He then found a recording of Urso and his family. Vader also noticed that Urso called his daughter Stardust, which was the code name for the Death Star's project. Finally, Vader found an Uthika egg in a box. Knowing that Geonosians were a slave race and were forbidden from breeding freely, he confronted Krennic about this. Krennic denied that it was him, and suggested that some of the slaves may have sent it as a distress call to Urso. Vader then deduced for himself that the saboteurs were at hand. Vader and a squad of death troopers entered a Geonosian hive, and found the Queen and her minions. The two sides engaged, but Vader quickly came out on top, slaying the Queen. After the battle, he returned to Tarkin on the Carrion Spike, and reported his findings. Tarkin asked Vader how he knew the Queen's hive had orchestrated the sabotages, and Vader told how their slicers had confirmed the hive to have installed corrupt tech into the production, ensuring accidents. Tarkin then asked Vader how he may have dealt with them, and Vader said that they were animals, so they were slaughtered like animals. Tarkin finally asked Vader if there was anything else, and he stated to Tarkin that his project, the Death Star, was able to destroy a planet. Tarkin asked how he knew, and he told them one of the kyber crystals he saw in Urso's office. Tarkin then asked Vader why he was not happy for this revelation, and Vader said that he distrusted his reliance on technological aberration. Tarkin then told Vader that he was one of those before realizing Vader wanted to be the only technological aberration. Vader warned Tarkin that the Death Star may become his tomb, and when Tarkin asked if that was a threat, Vader told him it was only a prediction. So thank you for watching this giant compilation. Please let me know in the comments down below if you enjoyed it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in the next video.